Now we've got some units, and now we want to get on and actually draw in some room dimensions. So these units are in the way, so what we need is a good way of actually hiding them until I've drawn the room, and we can then start putting some units in various places in the room. Now, SketchUp has various ways of doing this. One way of doing it, I could simply select all three of them, draw a box around them, or alternatively I could click on one, hold down the Shift key, click on the other two, or I could press H. That'll hide them. If I want them back, I can press U, and that will unhide them. That's a very useful feature sometimes, but it's not going to do for this particular situation, because sometimes we'll want to hide one thing and then hide something else and then have different things showing at different times. So we're going to use layers. Now layers, if you've done any photo processing, you should hopefully know about layers. Imagine in the olden days when they used to make cartoons, they would make them up out of several layers of transparent material. For instance, the scenery would be on one layer, figures would be on another layer, and it meant that they didn't, each time they drew a new scene as the figure moved, they didn't need to redraw the scenery. And SketchUp has a very good layers system, and we're going to access that now by going up on Windows, clicking on layers. There's a box over there. I'm going to move it over here, that's just my preference. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger too. And I'm going to add a layer. I'm going to do that by click on plus, and this one is going to be for cabinets. Type in cabinets, and now I need to put these three units, which at the moment they're on layer 0. Everything in SketchUp is on layer 0 unless you tell it that you want it to be on a different layer. So I'm going to select these three units, and I'm now going to right click and get the entity info box. I'm going to move that one over here as well, and you see how it's automatically docked below the layers menu. And this will show the layers that are available. The three groups are already selected. Put them on the cabinets layer. Okay, now I want to keep this window handy, but I don't want it taking up room, so just click on the bar at the top and that'll shrink it down. Now if I uncheck the visible line here, if I uncheck that one for cabinets, then they'll disappear and they'll come back again. So for the time being I want them to disappear. I want to shrink this down a bit as well, and now I've got a nice clear screen ready to start putting some dimensions in. These dimensions will come from a real kitchen, fairly small kitchen. It's one that I did recently, and it will mean that eventually at the end of this video hopefully I can show you some photographs of the finished kitchen. So various dimensions, you'll have measured the kitchen already and be ready to start entering the dimensions. I'm going to put in a vertical wall first. Just going to click somewhere, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to move the drawing tool, the line tool, and I want to go up. So I'm going to move it around until it goes blue. The little info panel there says that it's on the blue axis. So start moving it up, and now I need to enter the actual ceiling height, which in this case was 2345. I usually do my measurements to the nearest 5 millimeters. I'll press escape because SketchUp is assuming that I want to carry on and draw another line. I don't for a moment. Press escape to let go, and now I need to move we've gone off the screen, so I need to move the model down so that we can see what we're doing. And to do this I can use the pan tool, this one here, click somewhere in the drawing, pull the whole thing down. It's like a hand moving the model about the place. The other way of getting at the pan tool, the mouse, if you're using a mouse, and you should be using a mouse, should have a scroll wheel, which is scroll wheel is very useful for zooming in and out. as I roll it forward. So I move in, roll it back to move out. And if I click down on the scroll wheel, I'll get the pan tool. The pan tool will swing the model around. There's nothing to swing at the moment, so I won't bother demonstrating that. And then if I hold that down and roll my finger onto the left button, I'll get the pan tool. And I do this all the time. Actually, when I'm designing kitchens in my office, I use a special sort of like a joystick device, but at this stage using a mouse is entirely adequate. Right, let's put in another dimension. We want to put in the length of this wall, and it happens to be 5465. So we start off along the red axis, enter 5465, press enter, and now I have two of the dimensions of the wall at the rear of the kitchen. I'm going to use the rectangle tool now to finish this one off, save me having to draw the other two lines. If I go up here, now normally when you draw a rectangle with SketchUp, normally it'll try to draw it on a plane which is sort of parallel to the floor. But I'm going to hint to SketchUp what I want it to do by moving down to this line here. And so it's thinking, oh well, maybe what I want is to actually draw it in the vertical plane. I've given it a clue. It's inferring. This is what SketchUp themselves, the expression they use, it's inferring that I want to draw a rectangle from these 2 points. So I'll click on that, and now I've got my rectangle. Rectangles in SketchUp have 2 sides, and it's anybody's guess which side is going to appear. This is actually the rear. If we look at the other side, I did that by pressing down on the scroll wheel and getting the what do they call this tool? This is the orbit tool, right? And I would like to see the white side rather than the reverse side, so I'm going to right click reverse face, and now I've got the side that I want. Now this wall has actually got some windows in it, so I'm going to put some guidelines in, and then I'm going to put the windows in, and I want to do this reasonably accurately because obviously I can't hang a unit across a window, and I want the drawing to be as accurate as possible so that when we're assessing the design we'll know that that's what it's going to look like in the actual kitchen. Right, so start from the bottom, and I'm going to set a line at 960. This is actually the bottom of the window reveal, and this is actually quite low, by the way. Normally we're more like 1100. And the height of the windows, this case 1465. That can't be right. I'm using the wrong, sorry, I'm reading my drawing incorrectly. Control and Z, undo the last action, 1075. Now, quite often when you do use the tape measure tool to do a parallel line, quite often what will happen, if you have to redo it, it's not drawing a parallel line. Now I need to press on Control in this case, little plus will appear, and it's now drawing a parallel line. And I want the line 1075, that's the height of the window itself. Now from the left hand corner, I know I need to go in 550. The window itself is 1465 wide. Now there's a gap of 1250 to the next window. This one is 1465 as well. And I'm just going to check this distance, 735. I've actually got 740 on the drawing, but 735 will do very well. If you do have a discrepancy, as you often will, between your measurements and the SketchUp drawing, always draw the dimension a little bit smaller. When we're drawing the kitchen, what we're really doing is we're drawing the available space for units. If the available space is a tiny bit bigger than our design, then that's fine. What we don't want is it to be a little bit smaller. Now I need to do the window cutout, so I'm going to use the rectangle tool, press R, find that point, do the other one. That's right, that's one rectangle drawn. Same way to do the other one. And now I want to remove the surface that's within that rectangle to open the window. So I'm going to press on the space bar and get my select tool, select the face and press delete. It's about the only way of getting rid of a surface like this whilst preserving the lines. Delete. And now I can press Ctrl and D to get rid of the lines, and now I've got a wall. I'm going to make this wall into a group. But click 3 times, right click, make group. I click off the model to deselect it, and now I've got my first wall. Now I'm going to make layers. I'm going to put the walls on layers as well. It'd be very useful to be able to turn walls off, because obviously if I was to draw all 4 walls, then I'd need to get at least one of them out of the way to see what I was doing inside the model. Right, so click on the plus, and I'm going to write wall, window. I like to give these descriptive names if I can, and I'm writing it wall window because eventually I'm going to end up with an alphabetical list, and all the walls will be in the one area of the list. So right click to select that. On the entity info, you'll see wall window layer is there. Click on that, and now if I uncheck that, that wall would disappear. I don't want it to disappear for the moment, so let's put in another wall. I'm going to line here, and this wall is 3035 long. Press escape to let go, and I can draw a rectangle here starting from this point. See it drawing on the flat till it finds that point. There we go. And once again I've got the wrong side, so press spacebar to get the select tool, right click, reverse face. Now there's no features on this wall, so I can group it, and I'm going to call this the party wall, because that's the wall where it's just a semi-detached house, and that's the neighbour's wall. So this will be wall party. Well, if I'm looking for a name for a wall, quite often it's going to be the name of the room that's behind the wall. Right, let's do another wall. Now, it's most important to make sure as you draw each item, in this case it's a wall, to make sure that you group it. It's most important. If you don't group it, you will not be able to separate it from whatever it was attached to at the time. You'll see what I mean. Perhaps we'll let me do something quickly just to make this point, because it's very important. Just going to do a quick sketch here. Let's just draw an object. Okay, and let's draw another object. Now, if I selected this, and grouped it, no, sorry, not grouped, I just selected it, it's not being grouped. See all the separate, all the dots. Now, if I wanted to move this object away, I'd need to select it, but I can't select just the object that I drew. The rest of it's connected, and there's no way of separating them. I'd actually have to go around and actually delete individual lines. So I press Ctrl and Z. Now, see what happens if I group these objects. Make that one a group. Make this one a group. Now I can move this one now against that one, and I can move it away. But always make sure you group things. Right, just select both of these, press delete just to get rid of them. The whole point there is just to show you the importance of grouping objects once you've drawn them. Right, let's put in the other wall here. Now I'm going to show you another thing that SketchUp does. We won't be using this feature very much, but it's a very useful feature. Just select the line tool here. I'm going off in the green axis. I'm parallel to the green axis, as you can see, and I want to stop at the same length as the party wall that we just drew. If I go over here and just hover on that point for a moment, or as the Americans say, hover. If you watch any American YouTube videos on SketchUp, they'll be using this word hover. Hover over that for a moment and then come back. Now you see what's happened. It's drawn a line along the green axis and it's stopped when it's parallel with the line the point that I hovered over just now. Okay. Press escape to let go. Now I want to draw a rectangle. This time I got, probably because I was drawing on that side, I got it the right way around. This one has a doorway, and the doorway is tape measure tool, press T for, sorry, it's T for tape measure tool if that wasn't obvious. 1885 and 830 for the actual width of the door, and the door height 2100. Put in a rectangle, press space to get the select tool, click on the surface I want to get rid of, delete, and now I need to make this a group. Make a group. Okay, and I'm also going to make a layer for this one, and this will be wall utility because that's what's on the other side of that wall. It helps me to remember, but quite often the clients end up using these drawings as well, so that'll have it. I try to use names that have meanings to the client. I think we'll put a floor in. It's always handy to have a floor. This time I can just use the rectangle tool. There's my floor. As you see, I drew it from this side, so I've got the dark side. Reverse face. And make that into a group. And by right clicking, they call that the context menu in SketchUp. To right click, and I haven't actually created that layer yet. Usually when I'm designing, I'll actually have a bunch of commonly used layers, and I'll just put them in already, and then add the actual items to the layers as is. So this is floor. Select it. Now we've got a floor. I don't think I'm going to bother with the ceiling. Now the next thing we need to do, let's